Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I am your host, Ryan Houlihan.
I'm Ian, creator of Passion of the Nerd.
And I'm Ian Carlos Crawford. And joining us for his first full Angel episode, we have Slayerfest 98 co-host, writer, and journalist
Philip Ellis. Hello.
Hi, Philip. Philip,
Hi.
It's so weird introducing you. I haven't introduced you in like years on the podcast.
Literally years and years. I think it was season 3 of Buffy when I first started doing this. So yeah, it's been a while.
God, you're right. It has been that long. Philip, do you want to, Ian and Ryan have already given us this. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into Angel?
Yeah, sure. So obviously by the time the spin-off happened, I was a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And so it was just very much, I wasn't sort of sure whether like an Angel, a show could survive with just Angel propping it up without kind of the established ensemble cast and the Sarah Michelle Gellar of it all. But I was kind of quite into David Boreanaz at the time because it was, 1999 and we all were.
Yes.
But I remember, I don't know how it was marketed in the States, but over here, it was very much billed as the much darker, much more grown up sort of sequel to Buffy. So it aired on a different channel. I think it was on Channel 4, and it came out at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night on a Friday. So it was very much like it would be on after like, a Law and Order or something like that. And it was very much like the big city. It's dark and it's dangerous. And
Oh my God, I love that. I wish that they had done a little bit more of that and a little bit less of like, do you like chocolate? You're going to love vanilla.
Ryan, that really is how it was. But so we are here to talk episode 3 of Angel Season 1, In the Dark, which is a crossover episode of sorts. You don't need it for the Buffy episode, but you do kind of need to know the Buffy episode. Ian, do you want to give us a quick rundown of the previously on from Buffy?
Spike was back in Sunnydale looking for a ring that makes vampires safe and immortal from death. Buffy took it from him, like she takes everything from him, and gave it to Oz to take to LA and give to Angel.
There you go. You're all caught up. It's funny because watching this, I'm like, God, it's weird that we spent 7 seasons talking Buffy and now I'm back to Buffy season 4. And I'm like, oh, right, my crush on Oz. There it is.
It's a strange episode to kind of revisit after having done so much of the later seasons of Buffy on this podcast, right. To kind of go back to oh yeah, Spike was a villain in terrible white face makeup. and Oz was there. That literally it literally feels like I've gone on Facebook and received a message from somebody that I went to school with.
But it's someone that you liked, right?
It's like when you see pictures of old pictures of Gwen Stefani and you're like, oh yeah, that's who you were.
It really is
I think he even looks a little more paled up for this episode than he was looking in Buffy season 4. The new vamp face look from the first one from the pilot Angel episode hasn't quite gone away, but it definitely seems to me that there are different makeup artists between the two shows, and you're getting a slightly even more pale Spike in this episode than was normal, though already normal for Buffy. He does look more like Spike season 2.
Okay, so since we're talking about this, I gotta say, the joke of Oz at the end, who looks so nearly see-through, he is so pale, saying, wow, Angel's really pale, and they're standing next to each other and they did not pale up Angel at all. He has a very nice LA tan.
I choose to believe that Angel stirs a little beta carotene into the blood.
She's got her makeup routine. It's fair. You know what?
He's doing the Ariana Grande.
But right, it's even because you guys are right, even Spike looks more pale, and it's if we're gonna land that joke, maybe I should have said it to Spike but whatever. I'm curious, how did you boys feel watching this, what you remembered? There was definitely some stuff I didn't remember as well. I mean, Angel, my memory isn't as good as it is for Buffy, for Angel. But Ian, what'd you feel about this episode revisiting it now versus, how you felt about it before?
It depends on the period in which I was watching Angel at the time. So I think that the experience of watching, I mentioned the last time I was on, I think the experience of watching Angel episodes back to back and not interspersing Buffy episodes is a vastly different experience than hot swapping back and forth. And I think that Angel suffers in the hot swap, but does a pretty good job of maintaining its tone and its dire flavor and sort of keeping you in the flow of the heavier drama when you just watch them consecutively. But every episode during the hot swap, every episode that there were guest stars from Buffy, I felt a little bit of the inherited glow from Buffy on Angel. So I loved it. Of course I loved it. Having Seth Green on the show and later Willow's appearance. And I mean, I don't love Buffy and Sanctuary, but in the dark, of course, or not in the dark.
I will remember you.
I will remember you. Thank you. It's just always, you have 3.5 years of accumulated love and affection for those characters. And Angel is such a dark, heavy show that getting those quippy, joyful, saturated characters into this universe is always a ton of fun.
Yeah. I was saying that, like, a lot of us, and I know that I have said this too, that Angel definitely does better once it like starting in season 2 and once it like gets its ensemble cast. But like when we're in this season 1 where the show's like still finding its footing, it's at its best when it does have the lighthearted Buffy stuff, I think. And we get to like kind of like these beloved Buffy characters that, like, you know, even like Oz, he's not fully in this episode for that much. He's just in the beginning and the end, but even that feels like lighter and like you said, Philip, it's like your Facebook friend, the friend you see on Facebook, but it's like a friend that you still like. And it's like a nice breath of fresh air seeing these characters. Ryan, how did you feel?
I mean, I feel like, don't you think they tried to be like, we're going to make a darker, more serious, mature show. So they baked all that stuff into like all the stuff of the week. Like their central perk is a dark wooden office. Like, you know, like they baked it all in. And then they didn't realize that like to have a dynamic show, they were going to need some of those lighter elements. And it's why those episodes with Buffy stuff or like wackier premises work, because they bring a little bit of like, levity to the situation, or the ones that focus on Cordelia bring some like a dynamic quality to what's going on, whereas the episodes that with like drearier plots or really serious plots about like homelessness or something are so heavy, and they're in such a dark, mature, baked setting that you're just like kind of trudging through. And then later on, I think that they start to trust themselves a little bit more with like letting some of the elements that are the baked in elements change and be a little bit more dynamic. But yeah, it's a weird episode too, because they have Spike, right? And they have this ring conceit, which should have some fun things like, oh, we're going to get to see the sunrise and stuff like that. Like you're like, okay, that's cool. This is going to make for a fun episode. But they also put like a vampire pedophile
right?
And you're like, guys, it didn't, like, we already have murderers. We're already like pretty aware of what Spike's capable of. We didn't need this vampire pedophile. And like, it's not giving the Law and Order dun you think it's giving.
Yes. You know, that's what it is. That's what they thought they were doing. And yeah, we really didn't need that.
No. This is a story about these characters fighting over their different like goals or like ways of viewing the world. Like it's not a story of like oh, we're gonna get to see this horrific monster and then I guess we'll come up with things for them to do around him. I don't know, that whole element of it is misguided to me. But this whole episode, I have to say before we really get into it, is it's crazy that Oz was such a major character on Buffy and then a crossover character into the Angel universe, and then we just never hear from him again. We don't get a phone call when Tara is shot. He just never shows up again. The apocalypse comes and Oz like has nothing to contribute. He's off like in a band, and I think that's great. I think that I never realized that at all in my initial rewatches of the show, even the first few rewatches, but now as an adult I'm like, it's true. There are people in your life who will just vanish.
Yeah. Philip, what do you think?
I mean, Ryan really hit it on the head. There is this tension in this episode between the show that they're trying to build with Angel, where you can have a creepy, torture-obsessed vampire pedophile, where it's just like a hat on a hat. That's how dark it is. And then it's like, oh, but also do you remember like that you actually love Buffy? We're just going to bring back all these like Buffy characters and remind you how much fun that show is. And it just, none of this worked for me at all. I remember this episode being a really good one, and I was excited to rewatch it. And I was watching it, I was like, oh, this was not good. I was just 13 years old.
Yeah, it ends up the Spike is just good.
But even so, like, I don't even think Spike is particularly good in this. I think just like it's secondhand affection for like a lot of the other stuff that character does on the other show.
It reads like fan fiction that's trying to be as closely accurate to the characters as possible. So it's like, hey, blondie boy, you're a big poof.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's
Here is like
only talks in homophobia and like sexual tension with Angel.
Here is some casual homophobia, and it's very much like the spin-off episode of The Simpsons, where it's like, oh, and maybe the Simpsons will show up in New Orleans to help Chief Wiggum, and it's just like, oh, remember Oz? And Cordelia's like, oh my god, it's Oz, it's good old Oz. Hey, audience, remember Oz? And it's just like, Cordelia, like you never cared for Oz. Don't pretend that you like Oz.
Yeah, and it's Uncanny Valley Oz. It's Oz in the video game. You know what I mean? It's Oz voiced by like Dan Castellaneta. It's like not right Oz.
It's Oz the deepfake.
Yeah, 100%.
I will say, I guess it's just because I've been going through all of these episodes. I still enjoy this episode. Only, I mean, I can get your critiques and I kind of agree with them, but like, I am like, oh, it is Oz. Oh, it is Spike. Oh, I get to see Cordelia with these characters. Like, Cordelia and Spike's interactions are like very fun for me. I love that, you know, Spike, the joke, I feel like a lot of like people on Buffy Twitter are always joking that Spike is like queer. And there's definitely an argument to be made for that because he feels very queer. So it makes sense that he'd be like, Cordelia, I love your hair. Like, because like, same, I'd be like, oh my God, you look great. But yes, let's get into the episode. We have the like B plot, which is actually more of like a D plot of like Angel saving this woman named Rachel.
So we open on the final act of a Lifetime movie.
Yes.
At first I was like, oh, is that Anne? But no, it's some girl that we don't care about and don't need to know
I was
about.
going to say Rachel looked to me like Anne and Buffy had a baby.
Yes.
She looks like a hybrid cross of the two of them. And obviously, thematically, that's what they're shooting for, but it was a little on the nose.
You know,
I mean, I thought too, like at some point the casting director is going to be like, listen, we are in Southern California, but I am going to run out of these women.
I just think it's really interesting that we are 3 episodes in, and in every single episode so far, there has been a fragile blonde that Angel needs to rescue.
Yes.
Yes.
So Summer Bishel said this in the first episode, and I've been thinking about this a lot. She was like, are they casting all these blonde women to show that, like, look, he has a type? Or are they casting all these blonde women because, like, there was no diversity? And, like, they're just like, every character's got to be blonde and white. Cordelia's our diversity.
I think that they knew there was a hole in their show in the orbit around Angel shaped like a blonde woman named Buffy. And they were like, well, we can't do that. And their imaginations, I guess, at the time extended to like, well, I guess we'll just throw women on screen with him. And if chemistry hits, great. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, Kate won that lottery in the early season.
They were like, which one? Okay, her,
And
that
then
one.
eventually they were like, we must have picked wrong. Hey, you know what? Let's just bring Darla back. And that was great. And it worked. It's funny. And the show has such a fascination with blonde women that's like, I don't know. You could write an academic textbook on it, but I do think that casting director is exhausted.
Angel only falls in love with Cordelia once she goes blonde.
God.
Oh, the frosted. Yeah.
Wow,
at least-
Angel is a racist confirmed.
A lot of the stuff that I've read behind the scenes, I mean, Whedon said that he didn't know how to write Angel. And so my feeling with these early episodes, and I mean, the show is so experimental compared to Buffy, where Buffy had rigid structure and Angel changes. The whole series gets a faceover at least 3 times over the course of its run. And these early episodes just feel to me like the writers trying to figure out who Angel is. And at the moment, who he is Buffy's boyfriend. And so you get the repetition of that beat over and over again. And in this episode, Rachel is the blonde being abused by the repeating crack addicted LA boyfriend who tries to kill her in a murder suicide. And then that's, Angel, I get that that's Angel supposed to be working out his guilt and shame over what he did to Buffy, but it does start to feel very repetitious. But I mean, in all of these early episodes, the cast is just too small.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem for not repeating yourself.
Yes. I do think, it's wild that these credits have 3 people in them. And like,
yes,
it just, the show, because the show also doesn't know what to do with Doyle and Cordelia so often. And
eventually Wes and Cordelia.
Yes.
I mean, in Are You Now or Have You Ever, Tim Minear says in the commentary track, the hardest scenes for him to write in ostensibly one of the greatest episodes in the series were the Cordelia and Wesley scenes where they sit around and do research. They have the Giles role in that scene. And I think that that's the show seeking its identity over and over and over again. But the consequences of it is, these early episodes are either dry or feel like overly nostalgic for the sister show.
Yeah, that's really astute. I feel like I think that's the thing that works for me, but it is like leaning on that where this could be like a more boring episode of Buffy, right?
I think early on, you also have the thing of like, you want the audience to love your characters unconditionally. So you don't want to give them flaws that are beyond the shallow. Like, you don't want to give people flaws that are unforgivable or that might be polarizing so early on. So the characters' conflicts have to be really like, I mean, especially early on, but like, especially on a show like this, it has to be so of the week, and it makes it hard to start carving out who these people are. And I think Doyle suffers from that for the entire run of the character. And like, that's what makes it end up being like a really good nostalgia character. Like in season 5, when Angel's still kind of brooding over Doyle's death, is that he's like so pure. We're not like his most annoying habits are that he's too persistent in his liking of Cordelia. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that it's tough early on, because later we have more like there can be more pathos, or people can be keeping secrets. Like, I mean, even people like Lorne that are like rays of sunshine. The show compensates for that by putting in a vampire pederast. So,
God,
I'm sorry, I can't stop coming back to it. Anyway,
the more you say it, Ryan, the more stupid it does feel.
They don't even really tackle the issue of they don't even tackle the issue head on. They just use it for shock value. It's wild.
Right, because they just say it, and then they like show that he's like near.
And
some
then he
Boy
goes
Scouts.
down to like the pier, and he's like, "I'm gonna gobble up them kids."
Gobble up the kids.
It's so
Jesus
bad.
Christ. So we open on this girl Rachel. She's another blonde. I know that I'm a problem. The Spike stuff is definitely problematic, but I did like Spike like making fun of Angel.
Oh yeah, it turned me on. I mean, he could be homophobic to me all day.
Right? I was like, when he was like narrating as her, and he's like, "It's okay, I have a nephew who's gay." I was like, I am such a problem. I laughed at this. Like, Jesus Christ. But I just always loved the like Angel, like, it's a shame. The thing that this episode could have benefited from was like an actual Angel and Spike scene, like not just like them having a fight, but like them having their like banter. That I do think, I know some folks don't love it, but I love it in season 5. And I feel like this could have benefited from a scene like that.
I mean, if we're talking about, Angel not being over his ex who's a blonde, enter Spike.
Yes. It really is all of his exes.
Spike went blonde. Turn his head.
Yeah.
One thing I had not thought about before that I wrote down was James Marsters doing faux accents while doing an accent was pretty neat to me.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. It's like, that's like when Cordelia is like showing how she's acting, and it's charisma acting as Cordelia acting.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Once you go layers deep like that, even though it's he's doing bad on purpose.
Right.
It's still an accent in an accent, and I thought that was kind of impressive.
I love a hat on a hat. So the other thing, I like that he makes fun of Angel's hair, because also, like, Spike, you are not one to talk, honey. That hair is slicked back with more gel than Angel even has in his spiky hair. But I like all that shit. We get the Gem of Amara plot. That's this plot.
So before we jump into the Gem of Amara plot, I just feel like the one moment in this episode that spoke to me the most was immediately after the credits, when Cordelia just says she has to pay invoice. Because as somebody who has been a freelance creative for an entire decade, I was like, yes, Cordelia, you are absolutely right.
Are you kidding? There's something I realized. I just recently realized. Oh, I was never paid for that. I wonder if I can still invoice this many months later. Like, invoice again. So yeah, I do feel that, and the thing I like is that Cordelia is constantly the one that's like I imagine like Jenna Maroney in her like business slut shirt, but like she's the like business end of this. Like, she's the one that like is like, we gotta keep the lights on, and
like Doyle and Angel constantly talk down to her about it, but it's like, I'm sorry, like, how, Doyle, who's keeping you in food and whiskey and bad leather jackets, if not money? Like, this is how the world works.
Like, weren't you both recently destitute, and weren't you both like famously destitute for long periods of time? Like, I don't know. It just feels, they seem so like bored by the reality of being adults, I guess, is the dynamic we're supposed to take. And Cordelia's supposed to be like taking it head on. But I don't know. I wish the show would let her shine a little bit more in that role as time went on. And we do get some of that. Like, she's able to make like a functional business even without Angel. But I wish that it just rubbed it in their faces more, because later on Angel's like, I own this business. It's like, Cordelia should be like, I own 51% of this company, you stupid bitch. You signed a bunch of paperwork. You know what I mean? Like, she should have had one over on him in some capacity. Anya gets a little more of that joy over on Buffy.
Ryan, that would have been fucking fantastic if when in season 2 he fires him, she's like, well, actually, motherfucker, you signed this paper, so I'm firing you. Like, and Ian, so you've been going through Angel. That's a kind of a theme that they do eventually relax on, though, right? It seems like they all are constantly like rolling their eyes and underestimating her, but then she ends up being correct, right?
Are you talking about in terms of running the business?
Or just like in terms of like when her little roles, especially in season 1, her little parts are usually her coming in, saying what's going on, being right, and then like brushing it off because it's like, oh, it's Cordelia.
Yeah, I mean, what it is it's on Buffy, there was kind of a constant dissonance with her character as to whether or not she was the shallow alpha or, I think we talked about the last time, super intelligent,
Yeah.
And in one of the I think it was, it's one of the testing episodes. Her score comes back, and Xander says, I didn't know I was dating a brain.
Mm.
And she says, what, I can't have layers? And I think that the early episodes in this season, some of that comes along with it. The big turn, I think, when it comes to how everyone relates to her and her character is the finale of this season, where the blinders or the filters on the visions are taken off. And even she deprioritizes her acting career because she, it's a huge change for her character. And I think that everyone else's perception comes along with her, where at the end of the episode, she says to Angel something to the effect of, there's so much suffering, we have to help them. We have to help them all. And then midway through season 2, the visions start taking a chunk out of her. And she tells everyone that they're getting worse, but that's the job.
Yeah.
She has the best arc, arguably the best arc, one of the best arcs in the Buffyverse. Mm-hmm. It's just so unfortunate that it comes with an asterisk.
Right.
But early on here, there's definitely that joke of, the ditzy Cordelia. Oh, wait, no, she's right about everything.
Yeah. Oh, wait, yeah, she's consistently correct.
Yeah.
So we see Oz pulling up in his van post credits. I'm going to be annoying, but like God, Oz has never looked hotter. Like, he really did look a little different. And I'm not sure if it's because they had a better, like, quality on, like, they had a bigger budget for film on Angel, but, like, it looks more like, oh, there's my baby boy. He's so handsome.
Yeah, he looks great because Seth Green looks great. These were the days
Yeah.
before his bored ape was stolen.
But also, like, seeing Oz in this show does feel awkward. Like, seeing Oz next to Cordelia, Doyle, and Angel, it's like when you see a video of, like, a baby duck that's been adopted by a cat. It just doesn't fit.
See, I liked it. I felt like this episode reminded me of the Paley Fest that, like, most of the cast did from Buffy, where Sarah Michelle Gellar did say that she felt almost any character on Buffy could have carried its own spinoff. And I was like, you know what? That's kind of true. I feel like I would have watched a show of, like, Oz having to work at Angel Investigations, or, like, I don't know. I liked that when he arrives, Cordelia is excited, but there's a lot of, like, this is Oz. Well, blah, 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 blah. We have so much to catch up on. How's everyone? Okay. Are we done? Yeah, I guess. Like, that felt real to me when you see, like...
But don't you feel like Oz was supposed to have come to LA and, like, Seth Green was like, I'm not doing that. I have movie options on the table. So they made Doyle. Like, he's like a half demon and he's got a, you know, he's a straight guy who's kind of got an unexpected thing for Cordelia, which, like, Oz and Cordelia do have chemistry. And, like, you know, he would have been like, I don't know. I just think he would have been a good foil for Angel because he's so zen and he has so much perspective and wisdom to share. And that's what I think Doyle was kind of made to do. And then it didn't work. And, you know, we got there with Wesley eventually. But, like, I just think, I don't know. And this episode is just kind of uncanny. Like, him and Doyle in scenes together, like, there's not a ton of crossover because, like, I don't know. It feels to me like if it was an Anya and Cordelia episode where you're like, oh, I feel like these characters were created to fill a similar role. And it's funny to have two of them right now, but there's something about it that doesn't quite fit. Even though I do like Oz, I appreciate him in the episode.
I like Oz, but I think as I was watching it just occurred to me, I was like, well, this is a character who really does not have much of a meaningful connection to Cordelia or Angel. He is there for us, the viewer.
Yeah.
Like, he is there because the plot demands it, and he is given zero, like, sense of interiority at all. And I mean, that's, like, also an issue with Oz just being, like, the most
general.
chill, you know, sort of laid back person ever. You know, he's not super expressive, but it's just like he's literally there to deliver a ring, say his line, hit his mark, and then go home.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, but I think the way they work around that is the fact that he was already coming to LA for a gig, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm just passing by to drop this off. And, like, that, for me, that's why I don't mind it, because I like having characters, you know, in season 3, we got a few, season 3 and 4 of Buffy, we got a few Xander and Oz scenes. And I remember being like, oh, I would have liked more of these. Like, it's nice seeing Xander talk to, like, another straight teenager, but who is not also an asshole. Like, it was nice seeing them interact, because Oz is just like, okay,
toxic and non-toxic masculinity. Inside you there are two wolves.
Right? Like, I kind of liked that, and I felt this is why this works only because it's that he's just passing through, and he is, like, even more deadpan than usual in these scenes. But I think it's, for me, it works because it's like, yeah, he has nothing to say to these people. He's just like, I'm here to deliver this. All right, good to see you. Bye. It's like when you, like, encounter a friend, like a close friend's partner out in the wild, and it's like, oh, good to see you, but you have, like, really nothing to say because, like, you've been out to
like,
dinner
say
with
hi
them.
to Nina.
Yeah. And so that felt real, and I kind of like they get a little bit of, like, Buffy-esque lines. Like, he's like, you guys are, like, detectives, and Cordelia's like, no, I'm an actress, and he's like, does Angel have a hat and a gun? And she says, just fangs. And he's like, well, that works. And they go down to see Angel, and, like, you know, they catch up in 2 seconds. And Doyle's like, you guys always like this? Like, I like that shit. But I don't know, I could see where it doesn't.
Craving familiarity in the show, which it doesn't, like, have yet.
Yes.
Like, the show doesn't have fondness for itself quite yet, which is funny because, like, I mean, I'm going to bring it up in every single episode of this podcast, but shows like Charmed just automatically assumed we all loved their house. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, Angel's like, we all hate this office. And I was like, wait, I wasn't set up to hate this office yet. You could have made it feel charming and homey. Again, they get there, but I think that's what you're latching onto, is that Oz just feels comforting in a show that doesn't It's not comforting yet.
I think that's exactly it. It feels, I can see the lack of faith the show has in itself, and so it's lean like this. It's you're resting on Pretty, dear. It's like the show is resting on Spike and Oz in this episode, because what is the plot otherwise? Pedophile sunshine, eternal pedophile sunshine.
Ian, I need your rebuttal to have my back here.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with anything you guys have said. I think the difference for me is I just feel much more forgiving of these early season episodes. I mean, I think about the first season of Buffy, and the first season of Buffy for me is brutal compared to, I mean, it's hyper camp versus dry. Angel is the first season of Angel is incredibly dry. And I get what you're saying, especially in comparison to season 4 of Buffy, that is well entrenched and understands itself and its characters, and the chemistry is light years beyond what's here. Yeah, I don't know, and especially given what is to come after this one in some of the other I Fall to Pieces and some of the other stuff. This one still stands out to me as a bright spot in the season, even if as we said, some of that glow is inherited.
Yeah, it is.
I think what it needed, and I don't want to be too down on the episode because there are good stuff here, and it's like, again, an episode of Buffy or Angel is still a lot more fun for me than most other things. But if the episode has this ring at the center of it, and the idea is like, Angel could use this ring to do a whole bunch of stuff, but it wouldn't be a good idea, right? Because it could be taken from him at any time, or what if he turns evil? It's just too much power for any vampire to have. That's the moral of like their A-plot is. If that's the story you want to tell, and it's not about these characters maybe like, the focus isn't on them personally, it's more on this idea, this big thing, then I want to see it in action. Like, let's have Angel put the ring on to go out partying with Doyle and Cordelia under peer pressure. You know what I mean? And like, he's got the ring on to like go to an amusement park, and he's like, you know what? I see the benefits of this. And then maybe he turns evil because he was too happy, or maybe he he loses the ring, or his finger gets cut off, like something, and that in order for us to learn that it was like a bad choice. Instead, we just spend this whole episode with this centerpiece of a pedophile who's like torturing him. But again, there was no reason that Spike couldn't be torturing him, except the sexual tension would be too high. So they got this other guy to do it.
I mean, if you want to jump to the ring, I think the last 30 to 40 seconds of the episode, there are big problems in two shows that are intensely theme driven. There are a lot of times where something works for the sake of the theme but doesn't work for the sake of the plot. And I like the idea of the ring and Angel giving it up because it's not actual redemption. And that is the thing that he needs to seek forgiveness, to seek redemption. And that gets tortured out of him in the episode, for better or for worse, however well you believe that works.
Yeah.
The whole idea of it's the precursor to the Shanshu prophecy. The idea that vampirism is a curse that he has to suffer for what he has done wrong, along with the combination of vampirism and his soul. So to have the ring is to cheat the work that he needs to do to actually redeem himself. That is his journey. That's his arc. However, to destroy a tool that is so friggin' helpful in your battle against evil is absolutely idiotic. The idea of like thematically great. Okay, this is not actual redemption. This is not, you haven't earned your humanity back yet. You still owe a debt. You have to make amends. That's the Angel prequel is
literally
Angel episode 0 is amends in Buffy. You need to do that before you get to embrace and enjoy your humanity again. And yet, being able to go to the grocery store or fill the gas tank in the middle of the day would certainly be a helpful thing in the fight against evil.
Yeah, why not just go to Willow or anyone and be like, hey, why don't we put a spell on this ring so that if I ever shouldn't be having it, you could just like take it from me? You know what I mean? Like there's a solution. And because we don't want that solution, because narratively it won't be useful to the plot and like it's not useful to the character development to have the shortcut and you want to make that point, then let's make the point. It just seems like such a big thing and a lot of idea to bring in to just have Angel have the conclusion at the beginning, which is like he sticks it in the tunnels while he like, you know, comes to the conclusion he's already basically coming to by hiding it, which is that nobody should have it and it's too powerful to have in my hands. Okay, fine. If that's it, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying if that's the conclusion that that character is going to come to, like, let's see him come to it. It's kind of boring for him to know from the beginning and then he has it sort of,
I agree.
You know, then we have this emotional journey. And I don't know, it just doesn't feel active and it feels like the show, it wants to just, it wants the, I don't know, it doesn't want to baby its audience, but like, that's what an audience is. That's what an audience is. You baby them, like you tell them a story. I don't know.
I think there's a more practical reason that they needed to do that for the sake of the storytelling. And it has happened in the series several times. And when I say the series, I actually mean Buffy. When Buffy and everyone make, you know, super Buffy, maximum combo breaker Buffy in order to destroy Adam in, I can't remember the second. Primeval. Yes. Yeah. That needed to be, they needed to remove their ability to do that, because anytime a big bad came along, all they need to do is sit in a drum circle and chant, and Buffy suddenly has all these superpowers and could take on Snake Mayor single-handedly without the need for dynamite. And so along comes the first Slayer, and the first Slayer sees them because, you know, restless is the penalty for doing that, so that they can't just, because that would break the storytelling. From the standpoint of the writers, because it's the Superman problem. You have to take Superman's powers away every single time. And the other one of those that comes to mind is Willow beaming Glory, teleporting Glory into space when Glory comes along. If Willow could do that with just any old big bad anytime they come along, then the stories lose a lot of their tension. And so in the next episode, Willow has constant migraines, and Tara's saying no more teleportation spells. Because
that's what they do at the end of season 6 too. And they're like, Anya's like, oh, she's not going to teleport, she'll fly because it's flashier and scares the locals. What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I think that there are practical reasons to do that. If Angel can go out in the sunshine, then Angel the show is not Angel the show. It's a different show. You know, so from a practical standpoint, they needed to do that. It's just they didn't really justify it from the standpoint of the plot. The first Slayer is a much greater penalty than there is no penalty. Angel's just doing it for the ethic or the morality of it, which is stupid, because
it's not like in Lord of the Rings where the more you wear it, like it corrupts you.
Exactly.
It's literally, he just turns to the camera and says, no.
He's like something could go wrong at some point. That's why we're not going to do this. And it's like, wait, not going to do what? Like solve all your problems?
I think it was more of an aesthetic issue. He's like, this doesn't go with the claddagh ring that I've been wearing for Buffy, so I can't.
He didn't want a reminder that his boyfriend Spike used to own it.
Well, and like we even get, so we are all over the place, but so we even get Cordelia. I do love that, like, before Cordelia knows about the ring, she's even like, why are you going all Versace about a ring? And like earlier she says, how is Buffy? She's still our brave little Slayer? Is she moping around the dark like? And then they kind of look at Angel. And I feel like it's almost like that's the joke here, is like Doyle says it at the end too. And he's like, you're really into this angst, aren't you? And it's like, it feels like that's half the reason Angel's doing it. But you are right, Ian, in that it's like definitely like going for a morality thing in case he turned evil. But I also kept thinking, Ryan, what you said, like, couldn't he have just like called up Willow and been like, hey, I'm going to use his ring, but let's have a failsafe on it. So like, if I do like turn evil, it like immediately teleports off my hand, or like something. Right?
There's got to be a book somewhere.
Right? Yeah.
Like, just like put it in your safe just in case.
Yeah. And like use it when you need it. But like give Cordelia the combination so like she can get it in case.
Also, like, just logically, this plot would not have ended here, because if you're like, okay, well, word of the ring is out, who's going to buy that you destroyed it? I feel like vampires everywhere would be like, give me the fucking ring.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't stop. So if word isn't out, then why wouldn't you just put it in I don't know. It creates all these what ifs, and like it's a logical problem that the show didn't take the time to to responsibly weigh. You know what I mean? If that makes sense for itself, it should have done it for its own sake. But that's what I think the core of the problems of the episode are. And I wish it feels like a missed opportunity in a big sense.
So moving along, we get Doyle wants to go out and celebrate, and again we get Angel being like, "I'm good," and it's like, just fucking go out drinking with them, like. Yeah,
there's a line in there. I'm sorry to interrupt you. And there's a line in there I just wanted to highlight because again I love the Cordy arc. But she says Buffy didn't even send a note. She just sent Oz. Oh, this is one of those times that I should shy away from a topic, isn't it? And I was reminded of. Cordelia, have you ever even heard of tact? Tact is just not saying true stuff, which is the most Cordy line ever. But her sort of recognizing this moment and backing away from saying too many Cordy things to me feels like, her arc in progress. I think it's really kind of sweet.
Yeah. And also, Ian, that is my favorite Cordelia line. Like, that's like of all time is like one line is her saying tact is just not saying true stuff. I'll pass.
If you had to pick a line that encapsulates every individual character, that's definitely one of her contenders.
Yeah.
Totally. Anya's is, can I trade the children for more money?
Yes. So they go out, and I wish we had seen, I'm like, show me this. I want to see them going out. I want to see Doyle, Cordelia, and Oz doing shots together. Like, I want to watch that scene. But I do like, we get like Doyle's very hungover the next day, and I like Cordelia kind of doing the thing. Ryan and I have been out drinking many times, but Ryan's never. You're always such a polite next day friend who's not like, well, Ian, these are the things you did that are embarrassing. Because I do have some of those friends. I'll be like, well, these are all the ways you embarrass yourself while drinking, Ian. Here you go. But
I find it hilarious that Doyle is hungover, having got leathered and quoted Angela's ashes because Irish.
Oh, yeah. I have a note in here that literally says, why does this episode hate Irish people? And listen, my name is Ryan Thomas Houlihan. I get it. But, like, it's pretty explicit.
And, like, that aspect of his character never becomes more nuanced.
Neither or with Angel. Honestly, anytime we go back to Angel's history as like an Irish vampire, it's always like the most stereotypical anti-Irish sentiment I've ever seen a show get away with. I guess like all the way over on the other side of the world in California, they were just like, we don't give a fuck. But
it's basically it's like when Always Sunny went to Ireland in the most recent season. That's the level of like.
If one thing the show struggles with, it's starting from stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Doyle definitely only had a run of 8 episodes, but I'm reminded of I'm going to use a generous term, tropey place that Gunn's character starts from.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel that dissimilar to me from this. It's a very white writer's room working with probably the other stories that were popular at the time, mainstream popular stories at the time, and using those as starting places for these characters. I'd like to think that Doyle would have developed into something over time, but the show definitely struggles with that with other characters, not just him.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
So we then get Angel. He gets a phone call he's doing Tai Chi.
Before he gets the call from Rachel, he is downstairs in his apartment doing Tai Chi like a grandmother in the park.
Oh, but it's kind of hot. Let him have
it. So also I need to point out, I do love that Cordelia says that he was quoting Angela's ashes, but then says it does not star Betty and Barney Rubble like you said it does, and that he was calling Oz her little Bam Bam, which sure. But so yeah, Angel doing Tai Chi goes out to the car because he gets a phone call from Rachel. He's going to go see her to make sure everything's okay. The abusive boyfriend got out of jail on a technicality.
Angel's car, which looks like a hearse. Good touch. Sorry.
And Philip, who does he encounter out by the car?
His ex-boyfriend, William the Bloody, and it's very much like Buffy and Faith. It's like, because we can't have them kissing passionately on screen, they just punch each other a lot and shove each other around.
Even this fight feels weird, right? Because it is just like, they're kind of talking at each other and like throwing some punches, and then it just kind of ends. right?
Pretty much. And then and then actually I feel like Doyle makes a very good point, which I don't think ever comes up again. So Angel says, okay, Spike's out there in the wind. He knows you, Cordelia, so like you need to go and stay with Doyle. And she says, well, Spike can't come into my house because he can't come in uninvited. And Doyle says, no, but he can burn the place to the ground. And it's like, that is very true. Why has no vampire ever just tried that?
Right, yeah, like when he says that, it's like, that's kind of like when Harmony throws the brick through Buffy's window, right? And it's like, well, they can do that. So like, but I do love the like Spike and Cordelia interactions in this episode, even though they're only like brief interactions. But like,
oh, when he's like, oh, Cordelia, did you lose weight? And she's like, yeah, there's this great gym around the corner. Anyway, wait, no, I'm not going to be talking to you.
So that reminded me of at work once we had this like man call, and like we get it. He was like, and don't put me on hold, and I don't want to talk to any of those mean, skinny, rude gay men that work at your store. And I was like, he called me skinny? And like, but he like didn't want to talk to gays, but that was what I was taking away. So like, I feel you, Cordelia. We move, like, he just kind of like goes away, right? Like, it feels weird that like he just kind of leaves.
Because like everything else in this episode, the writers were like, first draft done, let's go to the pub.
Yeah. And then like Angel's kind of like when he tells him to leave, and this is the thing that they do a lot, especially this season, where Angel's like, we got to protect Cordelia, so we're going to sideline her for most of the episode. And like, that never works for me. So like Doyle's calling we get like in the middle here, it gets a little muddled, right? Because it's like Doyle calling people and like Angel's looking for Spike, I guess.
This show is a detective show that doesn't really understand like what detective work is, I think.
Yeah, it's also like the story doesn't always present a question that detective work will answer the way that Veronica Mars does.
Yes.
And it should have maybe leaned on that a little bit more, or given Cordelia the ability to defend herself in some capacity so she could have more of an adventure-y role and less of a like, cloistered somewhere role.
So this comes up in the next scene, actually. So when Angel goes to Rachel's apartment and she's doing what I can only describe as like the most school play equivalent of a strung out addict performance.
Yeah.
I didn't want to comment on it because I don't know what else this woman ever got to do in her career, but like
it's not good. It's not good. She's like she's the beaten girlfriend. She's also like shaking. And it's like, oh, but like he's on meth, but he's my meth. And it's like these gritty sort of.
I gotta stop freebasing this love.
I feel like I really prefer the later seasons when Angel Investigations just decides to become Ghostbusters instead of a detective agency, because this gritty case of the week stuff I'm still making my way through season 1, but I've yet to see an episode where any of it lands.
But you have watched it all before, right?
Oh, I have, but it's just like I was 13, so I had no idea whether like this was good storytelling or not because my brain was still growing.
I think that the second season, especially Are You Now, is sort of the big turning point episode for the first facelift, and I think they realized that. I think they wanted to do noir, but they didn't realize you don't have to do detective stories every single time.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the noir episodes work really well this season, and there are some detective episodes that work, but it's only incidentally. It's not built with the intention of being detective-y first.
Yeah, that seems to be the big point. Also, at this point, I think they wanted to go case of the week because they also really wanted to be episodic.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they really wanted to be episodic or why that was such a call for the first half of this season, but the case of the week thing worked for that.
I'm sure the WB had some fucking parameters. They were like, we need these to be airable in any order.
Well, yeah. So then Angel, like, I'm not even like, I was taking notes and I was like, wait, what? Like, Angel just kind of sees Spike, right? It's like,
oh, so he's like shaking down people in a bar, and then the guy's like, oh yeah, he's just waiting for you outside.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a trap at all. And he's like, so Spike's outside, he's drinking this girl's blood. She gets away, and then he gives chase, and then this Marcus guy is here. And it's like we're halfway through the episode, and the villain of the episode finally shows up. What is happening? We've been talking for nearly an hour, and I have no idea what is happening.
So they capture Angel. He ties him up. They're going to torture him. Rude that he calls her Slutty the Vampire Slayer, but he's trying to make Angel jealous. He mentions Riley. Spike leaves Angel with Marcus. Spike goes to Angel Investigations to look for the ring. He cannot find it. And I actually forgot that the scene of Cordelia holding the crossbow looking pretty badass is from this episode. So he opens the door and there's Cordelia and Doyle.
This episode was great for providing B-roll for the opening credits and nothing else.
Yes. Because the her holding the invoice is part of that.
Also, I think he's referencing Parker, which is a very weird.
Oh, you're right. It's Parker.
Oh my God.
Riley.
I know. I hated it. Oh.
I forgot.
Using the fact that that Parker used and manipulated Buffy as a way of hurting Angel,
right?
There's layers there that I didn't unpack.
The writers were like, we want to make the audience hyper aware of what happened to Buffy. You're like, oh, cool.
So I do like that once again. He's like, Cordelia, love the hair, and she says, wish I could say the same to you. A+. Him being like, so who's this one about Doyle? And then when he's like,
don't worry, in 4 episodes' time, no one will remember.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm leaving soon. And when they're like, where's Angel? And I love the way he describes Angel as tall, brooding man, caveman brow. That's a very good, insult. Even though Angel, I do think looks very hot in season 1, it's still also, accurate.
Oh, yeah.
Spike then tells them it's their turn to find the ring. He can't find it. He leaves. Cordelia and Doyle, search throughout the place. And we kind of get they're like, oh, let's remind people that Doyle's a demon because we don't get a lot of his demon face in these early episodes.
Expensive.
Yeah, I was going to say, sure, it's a budget. Because in my brain, I thought that they bring Oz back in so he can sniff out where the ring is. Because Cordelia specifically knows that Oz can do that, right? Because they had that scene in season 3 when they're going to, God, what the hell is the name of that episode?
Oh, Lover's Walk?
Yeah, Lover's Walk. When he says he can smell them, and she's says that's weird. So I was remembering that, oh, that's how Oz comes back in. She asks him to sniff, but then no, we just have Doyle momentarily put on his demon face, and he sniffs it, which, okay, sure.
Yeah. Again, they were like, this will be good for the opening credits. Let's get him to put on his demon face.
One quick second. I do like that Doyle and Cordelia are, competent here because they, meet with Spike, but they don't bring him the ring. And I actually kind of like the way it's shot, where, it's broad daylight. They're in on the sidewalk, and he's completely in a shadow in an alley. I think it looks cool.
It really does. Throughout Buffy and Angel, it stretches credulity that vampires are able to get around during the day so easily, even without
in Los Angeles.
Ring.
Yeah. It feels like Los Angeles would be especially a problem for that, right? So they say they'll bring the ring if they can see Angel, so he tells them where to go. The episode kind of picks up, but we're already 40 minutes into the episode at this point. And I like that they do bring Spike. We get a lot of torturing, right? But the torture is very I don't know.
So yeah, Marcus doesn't seem very good at this.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be a genius master of torture who's invented the art. And his big trick is stabbing Angel with hot pokers. Grow up.
Or shooting a gun in the ceiling. It doesn't even take a vampire to do that.
Yeah. Anyone could do that.
Unfortunately, in this country, anyone literally could do that.
God.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, it had to be said.
But yeah, the torture scenes just weren't sexy enough.
Yeah. Which, I mean, what does that say about us?
You've got David Boreanaz chained to a ceiling with his shirt open. Come on, give me more.
I mean, I think also the show, it has a difficult relationship with its own homoeroticism at times.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I love it, because it captures a time in my life when I had a difficult relationship with my homoeroticism. But it is they don't want to objectify him, but at the same time, they've picked an objectifiable man to be at the center of their sexy torture scene.
Well, he has a naked appearance at the beginning of season 2, know, so if that was an issue, they quickly got over it.
Yeah. Thank God.
In Angel season 2, he has what's the naked appearance?
He's dreaming of Darla, and Wesley comes in to wake him up so they can go do something, and he jumps out of bed and attacks Wesley. And Wesley looks down at him and says,
it many a time.
Yeah, he's naked in that scene, and I think there are some naked flashbacks later in the show.
Yeah,
but now that you pointed out, he should have been naked hanging from the chain.
Ian, that's funny. I was about to say, Ian, are you regretting coming on this very gay podcast as a
No, not at all. I agree. I mean, I have a note here that says, why is Angel's Tai Chi always so surprisingly sweaty? And then listening, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think I get it. So it's totally fine. I'm just going to ignore that note.
So they go to the warehouse to make the exchange. And by this point, I had completely forgotten that Oz was even in this episode until he shows up here in the van to help them make their getaway.
I do like that Cordelia, Spike says something like, oh, you really thought I was going to let you get away? And she's like, no, not really. And that's when he bursts through. I love when we can have, Cordelia's got the, she's not stupid. She knows that you will probably kill her once she hands over that ring.
She's got the upper hand here.
Yeah, and we got her delivering brief history of Spike to Doyle. She knows Spike. She knows who he is. She knows, the murders he's done. So of course she's going to have a backup plan because she would be aware that Spike would just murder them once he got the ring. And I do like that. And James Marsters is very good at annoyed Spike. He's very good when Spike has to be super fucking annoyed.
He's just good at all Spikes. He sells me things that other actors on this show don't always sell me, which is some of their go-to reactions. He's so good. I want him to be on this show full time so bad whenever he is. You know what I mean? Until he is.
I'm just so when they get away and he's ranting away in that warehouse. I did realize, I was like, at some point they had to stop writing these incredibly silly kind of infantile monologues for Spike, because you would never buy him as a romantic interest for Buffy if he was just kicking the wall like an incel.
That is true. That is true. Buffy would be like, what the fuck are you doing? She would not have...
It's the least hot thing ever.
Yeah.
But I do think he plays it well. I think it's
when he's screaming and ranting and raving, and then it takes him a moment to notice that his head is on fire. Yeah. It's very funny.
I mean, he holds duality of he's just such a good actor. He sells me so many different aspects of Spike as a humorous figure, a romantic figure. Take him seriously, be scared of him. It's so good. God. The casting director on this show knows blonde people. I'll tell you that.
Knows blonde people. And I like that his closing line of the episode is when he realizes that he's been double crossed by this Marcus is, I really hope they kill each other. I think that's a very good. It's also weird, right? Because they needed to introduce Spike is the villain of the episode, but isn't really, right? They needed to introduce a character that Angel could kill, because it wouldn't make sense if he had this big fight with Spike and didn't kill Spike, right? I felt that's why we had to have it be, oh no, Spike's double-crossed by the torturer. He takes the ring. Angel can murder that
You're
guy.
Right. Yeah, I didn't see the purpose for Marcus until you said that there needs to be a satisfying end of some bad guy.
Yeah.
And that's why everything about Marcus feels so phoned in, because they're much more interested in having fun with Spike as a character.
Yes, same. So we see Marcus walking along the pier. We see inside Oz's...
boys and girls.
We see inside Oz's van,
also,
Angels.
Is that the best an immortal pedophile has? His biggest trick to steal children is to go to a pier and be like, come here. Because he doesn't seem very competent at any of the things he claims to be interested in. Torture, pedophilia, he's just not good at them. Sorry.
Ryan, Jesus. So we get Angel's I guess this is why they added in the kid stuff, but they could just be he's a murderous vampire. He will murder everyone on the pier. Right? That would be an emergency to go back to, right? That feels like that would have been.
He could have been any kind of violent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oz, he has a thing for old people. We don't care. They're going to be gone anyway. Come on, Angel, let's get you to the hospital.
He's a murderer.
Angel
fine.
does COVID.
Jesus. So they turn around. Oz does some stunt driving. They go back to this pier, and I do love the ridiculous imagery. Like, I forgot the van literally drives out onto this pier.
Onto the pier. I mean, that van looked like CGI'd onto the pier.
Well, like,
and the people watching are like hot girls in bikinis.
and everyone's kind of like calm about this van crashing into a man on a pier. But I guess that also feels like very like when you're in a city, you're like, oh, well, not my problem. Like, I gotta get to work.
I've seen worse in New York.
Yeah, that's what I was like on the subway. I feel like I've watched people die and I'm still on my way to work, right? Like,
yeah.
So he crashes into Marcus. Doyle gets out. He gets beat up. Oz has never looked hotter. Like they put him in this.
Oh, in his Anastasia sunglasses.
I love the stupid pink sunglasses. They feel very like that punk rock dude from like 1999. Like that feels very much like exactly the guy I had a crush on, who like was a little Kurt Cobain, but had his like nicely fitting t-shirts and his like baggy pants. Ugh, does it for me.
Yeah. Seth Green was never more marketable.
Never. But so even Seth Green, like, I feel like he gets more action in this than like the entirety of season 4 of Buffy. Like he pulls out a crossbow and shoots it. And that's like more than he gets to do in all of season 4. Then Angel jumps out of the van, catches on fire, and knocks Marcus into the water. And I do like the under the boardwalk fight scene. I think it's like a cool setting for a fight.
So I will say, I feel like actually this is the bit that I remembered from the episode, and like there is like the tension there of like he's like, oh, everyone else is like failing to like fight this guy. I have to go out into the sun and be vulnerable and be on fire. Like it's the effects are kind of aged not great, but like it's still a cool way to kind of like end the big action set piece of the episode, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
I wrote the sunset whatever scene is so it's so affecting, and then they knew that it would because even at this point it's not that Angel the show has been around for so long, but Angel the character has, that you get to see like a fun first for him, and this is the kind of stuff I want out of the show. Even with a crappy green screen, it was more effective for me than mostly anything else in the episode besides Seth Green being hot.
Oddly, the thing I find most distracting is when Angel jumps out of the van. Fire gel Angel, the cut to fire gel Angel is distracting. I mean, all you need to do is have, Oz has road trip water bottles in the back of the truck, and Angel preemptively pours water over himself in order to deaden the fire that his body is going to break into, and then you don't have that weird cut.
Whoa, could vampires go to a water park?
Maybe. But I think because of the vamp face morphing, which is so dated at this point, the dusting effect onto the boardwalk didn't distract me as much as fire gel Angel for some reason.
Anytime someone's on fire in both these shows is always like one of the worst effects they've done, because it's just like someone in a very thick padded something with the gel on it, and then like there's a flame.
It's the effect you can literally go see right now today at noon, and then 3:00, and then 6:00, and then 7:30 at Universal Studios Hollywood. Like they do it on stage like 4 times a day. It's a very cheap way. It's a cheap effect, but it's also like, at the time watching this on SD TV, it was so much fuzzier that you could get away with stuff like that.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. But stories I've seen now where they have to use fire gel, a lot of times they will do that tiny justification right beforehand for the wet look, whether it's the person dousing themselves in accelerant or whatever, so that it just because safety's sake, you absolutely have to do that, but you do need to justify it in some way or not show it in close up.
Yes, I think that's also like maybe pan out for that.
Or film it from behind where the fire is, something. But that's the only little bit that takes me out of the sequence.
So that bit does not look great, but what does look great? When David Boreanaz came up from under that pier, dripping wet, into the sunlight, dripping wet, with the warm breeze in his face, dripping
wet. He looked good.
When I saw But I was taken back to being 13 years old. I saw David Boreanaz shirtless, and my adolescent lizard brain just grew a whole new life.
No, I mean, that is a tree
oh my
trunk of a
God.
man. That is like, that man is an institution coming out of that water. It is, I think it can't be underlined enough in either Buffy or Angel how hot our main character is, and how we all just seem to take it for granted in the day to day.
And sometimes that's all he is, and that's fine.
In our episode 1, we spent a lot of time talking about how hot he looks. Like, I forgot how hot he was in these early seasons. Because the thing that I don't give David Boreanaz a lot of flowers on this podcast but he's one of those men that he looks different here than he did in Buffy season 1 and than he does in Angel season 5. But he looks hot as a twink, as like somewhat of a twunk that he is here, and then as like his thicker final form. Like, he looks super hot in all of those, and I'm mad about it.
There hasn't been a bad Pokemon evolution yet, and we're all staying tuned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not a twink. He's not yet a daddy.
Right.
And the hairlessness adds to the uncanniness of it all, where you're like, you're this like ageless, handsome man. Like it's great. He's a great vampire.
So yeah, and I do like, hotness aside, it is like cool seeing Angel like, oh, I'm walking into the sunlight, like his like expression here of being like, oh shit, here we are. Like, it's cool. It's a moment, right? And then it's like almost immediately undercut. But we do get, I like Doyle, Oz, and Cordelia kind of just like standing there with him. We get the Oz joke that does not land because Seth Green is the palest human, of him saying, wow, he's so pale. And then we get, we kind of cut to the scene that Ian, you mentioned. But what is the scene we cut to, Ian?
The world's worst green screen sunset effect. Boy, there has been better compositing on this show already. And given it feels to me that there's some improv in the scene. Maybe this was a rush to finish and not the ending that was originally written for the episode. But
you think so?
The two, Doyle and Angel, go up to the roof. Angel gets to see his first and last sunset in 200 years, and decides to destroy the ring, much to Doyle's complaints. And then Angel insults Doyle's mother. Cut to credits.
That was so weird.
That really smacks to me of David Boreanaz's improv that they just decided to leave in.
They were like, he is so charming. They're going to get it. The audience is going to get it. And we just didn't get it. It's like it's a true you had to be there on set moment.
Like, I can absolutely understand like the Spike's like very self-referential homophobia being in the script.
Right.
But a yo mama joke to end on a yo mama joke
from Angel, the world's sulkiest vampire, telling a mom, it's so out of character and bizarre. Yeah, I have no idea why that got left in. I mean, the final shot, the final line of the episode needed. They always have some kind of punctuation,
right, for
the cut to credits. And then, again, that whole final sequence to me just smacks of deadlines.
And isn't Doyle's mum dead, or didn't she abandon him? Like, there's some trauma there that Angel is pissing over.
Yeah, some kind of demon holocaust that they later compared. It is awful.
I forgot about that part. That makes it worse.
Yes.
The show pulls in a lot of themes it's not ready to tackle just to have themes for a little while.
They go top shelf way too often. The Schindler's List visuals from Doyle's last episode are so inappropriate for that for that Nazi purity demons for that story. It's so top shelf, and the pedophile thing here is again like, I'm not against using anything for any particular story, but you have to respect the thing that you're using in your story.
Like, it's like, just don't bring it up, like
exactly.
Bring it to the audience as top of mind, because some people get upset because it's a big deal thing we're dealing with. It just, I don't know. This is the moment when the show feels its most like early 2000s, like, pre 9/11. and things come crashing back down to earth. Don't worry. By season 4, there's an enormous amount of gravity being thrown around. But I don't know. It's a real. You feel gaslit for a moment.
I've heard an interview with Tim Minear. I've heard several. I can't remember the one that specifically, but I've heard some of the original ideas that they. Originally, Firefly was intended to be a darker, a context for darker storytelling, and the I forgot the name of the space pirates, the zombie space pirates or whatever they were.
The Reavers.
The Reavers were supposed to be access to that after you sort of build the connection with the audience and so forth. And some of the proposed dark stories that I've heard are so inappropriate in a similar way, not only because they are from an era that is no longer exists thanks to Me Too and other things that progress is a sliding scale, and thank God the scale has continued to slid even though we still have problems. But when the desire to go dark bled in, sorry for the pun, bled into other shows. And that, boy, did they misunderstand how to do that, I think. And if you look at where all the other writers went off to after this, mercifully, they went off to procedurals or, Once Upon a Time and so 24, which is, spy action content. But the desire to go dark that was here and there with Mutant Enemy stuff is often mishandled in such a odd way like this.
It reminds me, it feels a little bit like the Star Wars, the recent trilogy, the sequel trilogy, where you're like, oh, I think you just like wanted to play with these words, but I don't know that the aesthetic seemed like pretty edgy, right? But I don't know that you were prepared for what you started dabbling in. Let's back away slowly from the Nazi imagery.
Yeah, Whedon definitely made moves that were an attempt to shirk a reputation that he didn't like once or twice. I mean, Once More with Feeling. Or no, not Once More with Feeling. Hush came about because the thing that he didn't like the fact what I've heard is the thing that he didn't like the fact that he was getting really known for this quippy dialogue that doesn't exist in real life, and so and that if he didn't have that to lean on, he couldn't write a good episode, and so he decided to write an episode where no one could speak, and it's one of the best episodes in the series. And maybe the darkness, the desire to play with dark ideas comes from that same desire to challenge yourself and break the mold that you're known for. But boy, did it not work a lot of times.
It especially in this season of Angel, it really does just feel like a teenage boy is trying to tell you how dark and edgy he's being by literally just throwing around, like Holocausts and pedophilia.
Yeah, shock is not difficult. It's not creating shock is not a challenging place to go. Justifying shock, making shock feel valuable or worthwhile, or that is more difficult. And I mean, The Body is an example. The Body is an incredibly shocking episode. It is not pleasant. It's not a fun episode to watch, but it is an episode that you feel that justifies its existence because it tells something that is about being a person. It's something that we see ourselves in. But this is thrown in. The pedophile bit is just thrown in. It's writer shorthand for we need the audience to hate this character. It's too top shelf. I don't know of a better metaphor than the booze metaphor, going right to the top with the darkness that you're doing.
Yeah. Just grab that Everclear.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, now that we're at the end here, boys, what was your favorite outfit of the episode, Philip?
I mean, it's really not a great episode for clothes, but I think because it features so heavily in the credits moving forward, and also because it's the most 1999 outfit imaginable, I'm going to say Cordelia's orange tank top and the drawstring trousers.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Ian?
Yeah, I was thinking about that this time because the rotating outfits are such a part of Buffy's identity, especially in those early seasons. And Angel has a superhero suit.
Yeah.
Spike has a supervillain suit. To some degree,
Yeah.
Doyle wears the same superhero suit at the same time. So it's a more challenging question until Gunn, Fred, and Lorne come along.
Yeah.
And then if I default to charisma, I'm not sure if it's the outfit or the fact that charisma could wear anything and make it look amazing.
Also fair.
But again, drawstring pants and the orange top for sure.
Ryan?
Bikini babe at the pier. I loved the cut. She looked great. She's very confident. She's having a great time. Very, very ideal day at the beach for her. I don't think anything went wrong. Love her.
Fair. My favorite, I'm going to go same thing with I do like that top on her, but I think it also, to your point, Ian, she looks good in everything.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to say it's a tie between the orange top and then Oz's like Kurt Cobain-ish end outfit with the like tight-fitting gray shirt. Ugh, my man looks good.
Yeah, when in the van appearance, when he's driving, I was so struck by when he's driving the van and you get the first shot of him and the lamplight, you hear the radio before the lamplight illuminates his face. And it's they're playing all the alternative hits, 98.6. And then you see Oz's everything alternative. I mean, I so vividly remember that era and my Pearl Jam shirts. It's beautiful. I love his style in that episode.
Favorite scene, Ryan?
I think my favorite scene in this episode is Angel being hot doing Tai Chi because it's nothing too bad happening in that one.
Ian?
I really actually appreciate, I mean, we know what Angel wants. We all know what Angel wants. We saw amends, we saw whatever, but I really appreciate it. Moments of emotional vulnerability are rare for his character. Mm-hmm. And the moment where and David's performance, I don't give him enough. I don't give him many kudos in the content that I make, but his performance when he says, "I want forgiveness," gets me in the heartstrings. And he's trying to set up Marcus to bring him in so he can stake him, but I still choose to believe that moment is genuine, and Angel's vulnerability and exhaustion over trying to fix and make amends for the things he did, because selfishness is a part of being a human, and that's okay too. So I really appreciate. I like that moment.
Fair. Philip?
I'm going to go with Rachel's daytime TV movie. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's going to have to be the action under the pier.
Yeah.
And then him emerging into the sunlight, dripping wet.
Philip has one track mind here, and I love that we keep going back to the dripping wet. I think my favorite scene is Spike being like, "Cordelia, you look smashing," after getting like beat up. But a close second would be him coming out of underneath the pier. What grade do we give the episode, Ian?
Well, again, I think that you have to grade on a curve depending on the season you don't have to, but I choose to grade on a curve depending on the season that the episode appears in. And because this is a first season episode, I'd give it a B.
Okay. Ryan?
I was going to give this a C-, but then I remember that at one point Doyle says he knows a 3-legged monster, and that launched a whole fan fiction universe for me. So I'm going to give it a C.
Philip?
I'm going to go C+, because it's far from... I mean, even in this season, like, you've got episodes that are so great, and if we're talking crossover episodes, the Faith two-parter really does wipe the floor with this one
for sure.
But I appreciate that they put a lot of stuff into it. They threw a lot of stuff at the wall to see what would stick. None of it did, but I appreciate that they took a big swing, even if it really was a bit of a miss. So a C+.
All right, and I give it a B, because I feel like I feel the same way Ian does. The Ians agree. In the realm of season 1, this is a standout, I think, like, for sure. I do think the Faith episodes are some of the best, but before this, we got a fucking Kate-centric cop episode with a monster that did not matter, and this is a nice change of pace after that episode. Thank you, boys, for joining me and being co-hosts, and thank you all for listening. If you liked Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can support us on Patreon. We are currently going through What If Season 1 and Harley Quinn Season 2, but also do bonus episodes on things like Stranger Things and whatever new movie is out. Any support is much appreciated. If you want to follow us on social, we are at SlayerFestX98 on all social media platforms. I am at IanXCarlos on all social media platforms. Where can they find you, Ian?
I am at Ian Nittram, which is my first name and last name Martin spelled backwards, and youtube.com/Passion of the Nerd for my Buffyverse content.
And Ryan?
You can find me at Ryan Houlihan. You can find my drag persona at AOL keyword woman, and you can find my Drag Race recap podcast at Academy of Drag, all over the internet and all the places you would look for that.
And Philip, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Philip_Ellis. That's Philip with 1 L, Ellis with 2. You can find me on Instagram at Philip Ellis, and you can find me on the pier wearing a bikini.
All right, well, thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.